This podcast is part of the OIW Podcasting Network.
Good morning, good evening, good night. How is everybody doing out there? This is GUILMY again, and this is GUILMY Talks Movies with your boy, George Mackay. You know him from Straight Talk Wrestling, MOW Rewind, my OIW podcast network. He's one of the OGs in it. And you know what? He's just a good fucking guy to talk to. Go back to our previous episodes. We talk movies, we talk family, we talk wrestling, basically all things we love. And he is one of my favorite people to have on this show. So George, how's the day going, buddy?
It's going great with a tear in my eye because that was such a sweet and sentimental intro. Yeah, it's going great, man. Always glad to be back. And now we're going down the rabbit hole. That is another big time director with a big time catalog of movies.
Drop the name, bud.
All right, we are going down the Martin Scorsese rabbit hole, and this is going to be a good one because this was Tarantino before I discovered Tarantino. So yeah, that's where this kind of wraps up, right?
And we're not going to go through every single movie like we did with Tarantino, guys, because if you just look up Scorsese's Wikipedia page, we can just do like a 3-hour podcast on the documentaries he did, which I'm pretty sure we're not even going to be touching on those.
Some of them are great. Last Waltz is great. If you ever get a chance, Last Waltz is fantastic. But yeah, the documentary stuff is it's a lot.
Yeah. So first one, there's Mean Streets, which I haven't watched in about 20 years. What do you remember about Mean Streets? The one that kind of made his career for the first big block. His first hit, I would say, would be Mean Streets. And it was actually preserved in the United States National Film Registry, which I think is fucking cool because that's just cool. It really, really is. What are your thoughts on Mean Streets?
Well, I like Mean Streets because you could see where it would evolve to, right? Mean Streets definitely was a blueprint for Taxi Driver, filmed in the very same style, filmed in the same city. Again, as a lot of his films centered around New York, a lot of his films centered around these misfit characters, these characters that normally wouldn't be protagonists and antagonists in any film. If you look at the Harvey Keitel character in Mean Streets, this is not a character you resonate with. This is not a character you care about, much like De Niro's portrayal in Taxi Driver. These are not characters that you would normally give a flying fuck about. Like who would care about a taxi cab driver as the main character of a movie? And who would care about this wannabe gangster and his friend who still lives with his mom? Like nobody would give a shit about these characters. But for some reason, Scorsese has this fascinating way of making you feel for these characters, making you love them and believe them. So it's not a shock that this movie would be preserved in the National Film Registry. I think all of his films should be, except for The Departed, and I'm sure we'll get into my thoughts on that later. But
we are.
Yeah, but this was a movie that again, you could see why it was his first big hit and why he followed it up so closely with Taxi Driver, because a lot of these characters resonate in that same world of misfits that you never would gravitate towards, but of course Scorsese made you give a fuck about them, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does. And I love his work. As we were talking before, I am a raised Catholic, so any film with the Catholic guilt in it, I kind of enjoy, just because that's how I grew up.
Yeah. Okay.
Now,
all right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I won't speak on my views of the Catholic Church because we're talking about movies right now. But
that is a whole other show. Just my own my views there, bud. But let's move on to Taxi Driver, probably one of his more well known films, because this is the one that really, let me just check some numbers. Yeah, this is the one that he like quadrupled his budget. I think this is his first. Mean Streets was the one that got everyone's attention.
Mhm.
Taxi Driver is the movie that showed what he can do.
Mhm.
I
Absolutely.
just and once again, Robert De Niro has been in so many movies with Scorsese, and has knocked every single one of these roles out of the park. I think he brings the best out of that out 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 of his actors.
Yes, yes, I would say that he has a fascinating way of pulling these performances out of characters who are not to say anything, but De Niro in his early days was very like one dimensional. De Niro played the same character, it was just intense all the time.
Yeah,
But Taxi Driver had layers. You saw the psychotic breakdown of everything from just I took a cab job because I just want to drive a cab, and then to this descent into like becoming this hero, saving this young girl from herself and disasters that would eventually unfold. And what a brave way to put something like that out there, especially child prostitution in a time period where it wasn't really discussed or wasn't even really known about. To bring that to the forefront and show a very vulnerable character in that aspect, and how these two misfits connect in this world that he's built. And the great part about it is Scorsese is that a lot of people might not know this, but the scene where the De Niro drives the cracked out, I guess you want to say passenger to like his girlfriend's house and watches, that's Scorsese. That's Scorsese in the cab, and people don't realize that Scorsese did give himself little cameos, but he was kind of like the way we talked about Tarantino, way he gravitated towards those little cameos like Hitchcock. Hitchcock never
yeah,
spoke, but Hitchcock would just be there in a scene or in a shot. Uh, Tarantino would give himself little sweet ass fucking tidbits, kind of save the best dialogue or best scenes for himself to put him right in like the shit, like Pulp Fiction, like when he's washing the blood out of Samuel and fucking Travolta's uh hair. It's gold. It's gold. And
yeah.
Scorsese finds a way to put himself in these little tidbits. Even in Gangs of New York, there's a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio is watching this rich family through a window, and the head of this rich family is Martin Scorsese. He didn't talk, but he puts himself in these like defining sequences where the character is altering and changing. And that conversation in the cab ride was what eventually started De Niro's descent into madness, as I would call it. That's like the pinpoint. So Scorsese has this fascinating way of putting himself right there in the mix, but not like Quentin, where Quentin would kind of overshadow or steal the scene.
Hmm.
Scorsese would elevate the characters within it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and any movie fan has seen Taxi Driver, and I've heard,
If they haven't, they should be shot in the fucking head.
yeah, because if you are missing out on this amazing role, and people forget Jodie Foster, when she filmed that movie, she was only what, 12, 13?
I want to say she was, yeah, 12 or 13, much like Natalie Portman
Yeah,
was when she was in The Professional. Very
yeah,
similar in the age and a defining character. Anna Paquin in The Piano, changing the landscape of what young actors were known to do back then.
oh yeah. And it was actually I do know this about Taxi Driver. Having a young child in the final shootout, they were actually considering doing an X rating. And at the time, that would have destroyed the movie, because in the 70s, you get an X rating. You're playing it in porno theaters, and that's it. No distribution, no nothing. And
Are you talking about Deep
watching
Throat or are you talking about Taxi Driver? What are you talking about right now?
Taxi Driver, sir, Taxi Driver. Deep Throat is a whole under
It's a whole nother ball of wax, baby. Whole nother But you're right. You're right. An X rating would have changed what we would have known. And eventually, unfortunately, I think had they given it that X rating, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about Martin Scorsese.
No, and he absolutely refused to change the scene, and he brought other films to argue it. And why is my film getting this rating, whereas he showed a lot of the exploitation films at the time, which were a lot more graphic, a lot more violent than what his film was. But it's because he had a bigger budget and a theatrical release, instead of it just playing as the second movie on drive-ins at the times, which most exploitation films were. But he stuck to his guns, and it showed that he knew what he was doing.
Right,
He
but it
really
also
did.
hurt him. It hurt him because it took 45 years after that to win an Oscar.
Yep.
So
Now,
when you go against the film board and you
mhm.
win, and he wins.
Yeah.
Then it becomes okay. How do we fuck him? We're gonna
Yep.
fuck him every single time. And how many of his films were nominated for Best Picture? How many times was he nominated for Best Director? It was almost like he was the Susan Lucci of the Oscars. He could never get the fucking award when he deserved it so many times.
And I fully agree, because it makes sense. Now, where do you want to go next? Casino, Cape Fear, Goodfellas, Raging Bull?
We have to touch on Raging Bull, but then we have to go right to in my opinion, we have to go right to Goodfellas, and then to the film where I discovered him, which was Casino. Casino was the first film where I didn't give a fuck about the cast. I only cared about the director. I asked my mom point blank, and this is a funny story, and I'm going to sell my mom out. I'm going to sell her right down the river. She took me to see this movie in theaters.
Oh.
I was like, let's see, 95. I was 12, and I was really into The Godfather, and the Casino just came out, and she was like, well, there's this movie. I was like, I don't care about these people, and she's like, well, this guy here, he was in The Godfather Part 2, and I'm like, okay, now I care. I want to go. I want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was like, no, I can't go. And my mom was like, he's watched Scarface. We've shown him The Godfather. Why can't he go? And my dad's like, no, it's too much. It's too much. I heard Sharon Stone's like naked throughout the whole movie. Just no, it's too much. Saturday, my mom, when I went grocery shopping, dropped me off. My sisters were at dance class to do whatever. We had like 3 hours to kill. She's like, you want to go see Casino? I'm like, yeah, I do. And we went. And I could say that I guess you could say I saw my first naked woman on screen.
Yep.
Thanks to my mom. So thanks, Mom. But yeah, I gravitated towards Casino so much. But and then backtracking, I discovered Goodfellas, obviously, and I discovered Raging Bull. I mean, how could you not? Like, Raging Bull again is another one that should be preserved, much like Mean Streets, much like Taxi Driver. Again, these misfit characters that he makes you care about.
Raging Bull, by the information I have here, it is preserved in the National Film Registry, Library of Congress, and the American Film Institute, and it's ranked as the 4th greatest American movie of all time.
And let me guess, Citizen Kane is still number 1?
Pardon?
Citizen Kane is still number 1?
Yeah.
I love me some Citizen Kane, but I don't see it. I appreciate it, but I don't see it. But thank God we don't have to talk about Citizen Kane today. We should go down the rabbit hole that is Citizen Kane one day. Maybe the next one we do. But yeah, for sure. Raging Bull was a classic. And I mean, you can't forget about like what he did with Ray Liotta. Ray Liotta in Goodfellas was so omnidirectional with how he portrayed that character. Whereas you're used to, when you saw Ray Liotta before, he was just stagnant, same character. Everything was yelling, everything was intense, everything was just Ray Liotta. But in Goodfellas, Scorsese managed to take Ray Liotta and make him an actor. And that's fucking crazy, because in every other movie he's been in, Ray Liotta sucks. But in Goodfellas, Ray Liotta stole the show.
Yeah, he really did. In a room, like, think of the cast in Goodfellas, and Ray Liotta is the guy that stole the show.
Yeah.
How good of a director he is to get the performance he got out of him. It was amazing.
Well, look at what he did with Pesci in Casino. Pesci again was very omnidirectional, but in Casino, Pesci was layers. layers. We saw this over aggressiveness, this cockiness, this portrayal of being a true American gangster, and then going over to Vegas and fucking everything up to the point where, I mean, if you haven't seen Casino, spoiler alert, Joe Pesci ends up in a hole with his brother, buck naked, wearing tighty whities and getting buried. I want to say alive, but I'm almost positive by the time they're getting dragged through the field in the desert, they're already dead. And that's where the saying comes, if you travel the desert, you'll find 50,000 holes with a story in it. And that's where that came from, because when you fucked up with the mob back in Vegas in the 50s and the 60s, you ended up in a fucking hole. And that's exactly what happened to Joe Pesci's character in Casino. And that's what Scorsese did, right? Scorsese, much like Coppola, took this mob lifestyle, this lifestyle that we're not supposed to be talking about, this lifestyle of underground crime, and they made it sexy. They made it to where it was right out there for you, and you couldn't stop it. And the cool thing about Casino was he told the story of something that happened in the 70s, the 60s and the 70s. 25 years later, only 25 years later, he brought what Vegas was to the masses. What Vegas is now is completely different. But what Vegas was 50 some odd years ago, it literally was a mobbed run town with so much money flowing through it. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Now, Raging Bull is, you know what? This movie is I could have been a contender. There's just so much about this movie by itself. It's just Robert De Niro played. This is probably my favorite De Niro role, and
that's
it was
big words, man. That's big.
I know,
words.
because he's played so many amazing roles, and even the comedy he's doing now as like Bad Grandpa or whatever that movie was.
That's so good. So good.
Oh my God. Or War with Grandpa, I think it was called.
So good as well. So good as well. Yep.
And how the hell did he get funny? It just
good writing.
Yeah. It was really, really well done. But Raging Bull is a movie that a friend of mine, Blaine, said, you gotta see this a movie. And I'm like, I wasn't huge into watching older movies as a teen, but this guy taught me about Scorsese. He taught me about filmmaking. He taught me who Stanley Kubrick was. Like, these amazing directors that he would just say, okay, this weekend we're watching Kubrick's films. Okay. And went to Blockbuster, rented as many. Then he showed me A Clockwork Orange, and I didn't talk for like two hours. So that guy basically held my hand, and figuratively, and walked me through the movie aisles and showed me what movies I have to watch. And just Raging Bull was one of those movies, because I was totally transfixed in De Niro's performance, and the physical changes he makes for this film is absolutely amazing. Being the old boxer, the young boxer, and just I can't really just describe it. It's just, still to this day, when I put Raging Bull on, I probably watch it once a year. I'm just transfixed the entire time.
Yeah, absolutely.
No phone, no nothing, no, and I make sure the wife and kids are gone so I can just sit there, have a beer, watch my movie. It's just, I think this is my now that I'm talking about it, this is probably my personal favorite. Is it perfect? No, but
no, it's not perfect. But of course, what movie is? It's I want to say I'll give Raging Bull like an 84. It's 84% perfect, but every movie has flaws. But for me, performances outweigh flaws. And being coming from a film school background, being trained to look for the flaws, there's not a whole lot you can find in Raging Bull. You really have to look for them. But Yeah, picture perfect. And again, what makes Raging Bull so great? Performance was amazing, direction was flawless. But what makes Raging Bull so good is that the woman behind the Mad Genius, as she was called, which was his longtime editor, who lost her battle, I believe, to breast cancer in the late 2000s, was Thelma Schoonmaker. She was the reason Scorsese's storytelling was so good, because the way she cut his films was precise and perfect, and she would bring his vision of what needed to be told to life. So I hate editing. Editing is the most grueling process in making any movie.
Mhm.
That's why I gravitated towards direction, because I could just yell at people, get what I needed, give it to my editor, and say, "You fucking put it together. I want nothing to do with this." But um, she was so gifted at what she could do. She pretty much took a director who not so much faded into obscurity, but there was a long break period, which was one of his recovery periods from, I think, drugs or alcohol. There was a long break period in between, and then he fires back into like the mainstream big budget movies with Gangs of New York, and he blows everybody on their ass. And
Yeah.
again, you look at that cast, and fuck, how could you not love it? Cameron Diaz, fucking Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis, arguably the greatest method actor of our time.
Hmm.
And if anybody out there disagrees, hit me up in the comments. I'll even let Gillamy put my fucking email out there. Hit me up in the comments and tell me why you think I'm wrong. Then I'll list why I think I'm right. 3 movies: There Will Be Blood, Gangs of New York, and In the Name of the Father. Oh, I'll actually throw in The Last of the Mohicans. This is a man
Yeah.
who can literally perform any character. This is an English actor who played Abraham Lincoln. This is an English actor who played the last free Native American in history. This is a man who literally could play any role. So if you think I'm wrong about Leonardo DiCaprio, or I'm sorry, Daniel Day-Lewis being the greatest method actor of our time, tell me I'm wrong. I'll let Gillamy put all my socials out there. You fucking DM me and tell me I'm wrong, and then I'll tell you all the reasons why I'm right. But
And
even with
I
that
certainly
cast,
will.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Anybody that wants to challenge me on Daniel Day-Lewis, by all means. But the fact is, Scorsese had this all-star cast, and yet he found a way to make Daniel Day-Lewis better. He
Hmm.
found a way to make Leonardo DiCaprio better.
Yep.
He found a way to just tell this time period that a lot of people forget about and make it cool. Gangs of New York was the modern Warriors, in my opinion. Gangs of New York was that story from the 70s, that grimy Warriors feel, but he put it in like the early 1900s, and it was fucking flawless. Flawless.
Now let's go to Goodfellas.
Okay.
This is not one of my favorite Scorsese films.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Justin. It was great talking. Take care. Take care, buddy.
It's a fantastic movie, but I just I just lean towards some of the other ones, like Gangs of New York. I absolutely love The Irishman.
Ooh.
Oh my God, I love that. Irish background. Come on, man.
No.
Not as hey,
That
we're
movie should have ended at 2 hours and 20 minutes. There was another hour that didn't need to be
yes.
there. When they were in prison and they were eating a fucking bread, it should have ended. There was no need to give me 30 minutes and then give me a 5-minute long backtrack shot through a fucking doorway. Are you
See,
kidding me?
that's
Overdone,
why.
overacted, and underdirected. The Irishman is one of
Mhm.
Scorsese's worst films. I'll put that on wax. I will.
Yeah.
I'll put it on wax.
And that's perfectly fine. The reason I like talking to you about movies because we have different opinions and we can talk about them. For me, I honestly, I love that 5-minute scene because I am just curious what's going to happen. And it was nothing.
You know what happened in that 5-minute scene? I got up, I got a glass of water. Then I said, you know what? Because I was smoking at the time. I quit smoking now. But I was like,
Yep.
I'm going to go outside for a cigarette. And then when I came in for a cigarette, I was like, I'm hungry. I'm going to have some chips. And I sat at the buffet in my kitchen, which the TV is right there. And I ate the chips. And every time the camera moved that 0.5 millimeter, I ate a chip. In that 5 minutes, I went through 3 small bags because the camera took so fucking long to move. I'm sorry. I respect your opinion. I really do. But I find The Irishman to be overacted, underdirected, and just took too damn long to get to the point. I'm all about mob movies if they make sense, but The Irishman was Scorsese's weakest effort, in my opinion.
No, that's perfectly fine, because you can really tell editors now, ever since his favorite editor passed, won't cut his films down, because that's what he needs. Otherwise, he's going to film a 4-hour movie and the editor will cut 10 minutes from it because he's Martin Scorsese.
Whereas
And
Thelma Schoonmaker would tell his whole fucking career, she cut every one of his movies before she passed. And she even cut his last one while she was battling cancer. So I believe it was cancer. I'm not 100% on that, but she was battling something. And even then, she was like, no. That's why a lot of his movies were so good, because she would give you those little idiosyncrasies. She would give you those long, drawn-out shots, but then she would give you all that boom, boom, boom. She would just flash all that fastness. Like, look at that battle. Look at that opening battle sequence in Gangs in New York. Just subtle touches of a quick insert shot of somebody getting their face smashed in. It's like poetry in motion. It makes my heart flutter. It really does. It makes my heart flutter.
Yeah, because with Scorsese, he does violence perfectly.
Yes, he does.
I think he does.
Really does.
And it's one of those things that he makes the beauty of the fight, and it just shows you, like, and it's not overly gory or it's real.
Perfect.
It's
just little perfectness.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that, like, I've actually punched somebody in the face and their face doesn't blow up. It looks like that's what it actually happens. Yes, guys, I've been in a few scrapes in my life.
Probably recently when he told everyone that he loved The Irishman. That's when a lot of the fights happened. I believe that.
Hey, yeah, maybe. I did have a couple arguments about that one, but
shocker.
Now, before we go to Casino, I do want to get your opinion on. What do you think about Cape Fear?
It's so underrated that it bothers me. The original Cape Fear was a classic. And again, that one was a classic because of the cast that was in it. I don't have time to run through the cast, so people just Google.
No.
Okay? Google's your friend.
Yeah.
Just fucking Google. But when he remade it, he took us down this journey of, like, reinventing the thriller. In the 90s, thrillers were so stagnant. And then in 1994, Martin Scorsese slides this little gem into the world and says, here it is for all of you. Love me. And we do. It got a shit ton of bad reviews. Critics hated it. They hated that he made De Niro like the dark character. But De Niro played it so perfectly. And to the point where The Simpsons paid homage to De Niro, or to Scorsese's version of Cape Fear. They didn't pay homage to the original. They paid homage to Scorsese's because they knew how good it was, in my opinion. The Simpsons got a lot of things right. Even letting us know 25 years ago that Donald Trump would be president of the United States. But whatever. The fact is that Cape Fear is so underrated that it bothers me. But I challenge anyone to go back and watch it. Watch it. I think you can actually buy it on iTunes for like $7, and it's so worth it. So worth it. And just watch the little subtleties, the slow pacing, the methodical style, and also to have it set where it was set, man, on the bayou in New Orleans. Like, you can't get any more fucking picturesque than that, man. It was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeously shot, and completely underrated, and one of his strongest efforts. Again, not overacted, perfectly acted, great direction, and you know what? Not a minute over 2 hours, which was fucking perfect.
Yep. And I gotta say, Jessica Lange was amazing in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, nobody remembers that name now, but man, did she knock it out of the park with this movie.
Oh, 100%.
She was so good. And also Nick Nolte's in it, so yeah.
Yeah, Nick Nolte. Not not to be misconstrued with Angry Gary Busey. They look very similar,
Yep.
but no, Nick
Oh, yeah.
Nolte is different. Nick Nolte was the Prince of Tides. Okay.
Yep.
Gary Busey was Buddy Holly. Huge difference. That's all I'm going to
Mhm.
say. And I know there's other
Oh, yeah.
Gary Busey movies. Yeah, okay. He was the bad guy in Lethal Weapon 1. Whatever.
Yeah, but that's a Mel
Whatever.
Gibson movie. I
Whatever.
no longer watch those.
The Lethal Weapons? Really? I love the Lethal Weapons.
I can't watch a Mel Gibson movie without remembering he's batshit crazy.
Yeah, whatever. I don't give a fuck about
Oh,
his mental state. I give a fuck about his movies, man. You can't tell me that you don't appreciate a character like Riggs and Murtaugh. That's it. Next
No,
one
no.
I return. We are going down the rabbit hole that is Mel Gibson. From direction to performances, we're going to go through a whole thing. You better book off
Perfect.
2 hours because we have to.
Yep. We will definitely do it. I'm not saying he's a bad actor or a bad director.
Save it for the Mel Gibson 2-hour epic, okay? Moving on.
Okay.
Moving on.
Yep.
Moving on.
Now, we got to talk about this one, Casino.
Okay.
Let me just read a little something here, the excerpt from it.
Okay.
Casino is a 1995 American epic crime film directed by Martin Scorsese, produced by Barbara DeFina, distributed by Universal Pictures, based on a nonfiction book called Casino, and Nicholas Pileggi, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Scorsese, who normally doesn't write his films. It stars De Niro, Sharon Stone, Joe Pesci, Don Rickles, Kevin Pollak, James Woods. The film marks the 8th collaboration between Scorsese and De Niro, and I think that those two are just made to work together. Mm-hmm. They really are.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Casino, Jewish American gambling expert, handicapped. Wait, well, you know what? You describe this movie because this one's garbage. I'll be totally honest. This description is crap.
All right. So, long story short,
yep.
In New York in the 1960s, the Italian mafia had a lucky Jew. And their lucky Jew, and I'm not being racist or anything like that. That's what they called him in the movie. If you watch the movie, he was called their lucky Jew. He was their golden horse. Whatever he bet on, he could win. He could literally control or change the outcome of any sporting event that he bet on. He was just that lucky. And he had a bodyguard, little 5-foot fucking Italian Napoleon complex, Joe Pesci. And these two literally took Vegas by storm. They had a falling out over Sharon Stone, who was a crackhead and a whore in the movie. Again, not being racist or sexist. That is the description of her character. Crackhead. She's a whore.
Yeah.
And eventually a lot of bad shit happens to the point where the only person left is the lucky Jew. And that's all I'll say. But this movie everything was meant to be. So happy that Scorsese decided this to be one of the few ones that he allowed the actual writer of the book to write with him, because I think that added to making it so good. And I went back and I read the book when I was a little bit older to understand it and comprehend. But Casino is something that I literally have the VHS still. I have the DVD. I have the Blu-ray. I have the 25th or 30th anniversary edition of that fucking movie. I have the iTunes 4K restoration. I have the whole 9 yards. Casino is like one of my all-time favorite movies. And there's not a bad thing you can say about it, except that the guy who directed that eventually went on to direct The Irishman. That's the only bad thing you can say about it. Only bad thing. But Casino is just epic mob violence at its best, with a great story and a great cast. And this gave Pesci his Oscar nod. This gave Sharon Stone an Oscar nod. I'm almost positive De Niro got an Oscar nod as well. This movie had so many Oscars that year. It was the one that cleaned up. It won editing, won technical, won everything. It was just phenomenal. The amount of Oscars that this movie garnered, not winning, but being nominated for. Because sometimes in Hollywood, it's better to be nominated for an Oscar than it is to win. When you win, a lot of the times your career kind of goes stagnant and you disappear, i.e. Cuba Gooding Jr. And then you don't win and you get nominated, i.e. John Travolta, and you go on to have a very lengthy, successful career after your career was in the tank because you did 3 Look Who's Talkings.
And it did win for best film editing.
Thelma Schoonmaker, right?
Yep. Yep.
There she is.
Oh yeah. And because I'm just going through some of the awards, and she won a lot of editing awards.
She's
Like,
flawless. She's perfect.
oh yeah. All right. Gangs of New York. We touched on
We
that.
already touched on that. Let's talk Aviator, man. A lot of people shit on Aviator. But I loved DiCaprio's performance of Howard Hughes. I loved
Yeah.
how Scorsese made the character so relatable, and DiCaprio became the new De Niro. Him and Scorsese did so many together in that early 2000s that
Oh yeah.
they were synonymous. They were like always together, and they were
Yep.
flawless, man. They were absolutely flawless in everything they did, from DiCaprio's performances to Scorsese's direction. It was just picture perfect, man. It really was a match made in heaven.
Because no, The Aviator was a really good movie that I think a lot of people kind of sleep on, because it just, at the time Scorsese was putting out a lot of films, right?
Oh, he was killing
Like
it.
I
He was
think,
just fucking
yeah,
killing it, man.
he at that time he was just going to work, and it was really really good.
Mhm.
Like Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
Departed.
Yep. There we go. The Departed was good. Um, we we touch on good fellas yet?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
we talked about how Ray Liotta's performance actually stole the show when he's so one
yeah.
dimensional that it's because it's always like, even when he's not trying to be angry, like in any other
Oh, yeah.
movie but Goodfellas, Ray Liotta's like he's trying to do a love scene, like I love you, fucking love you. But then in Goodfellas, it's like I love you. I love you. Now I'm gonna give you $1,000 and you're gonna blow me by the kitchen counter because
Yep.
that's our relationship. And
Mhm.
in every other movie Ray Liotta does, it's like Ray Liotta could be a comedian. He could be a grandfather. It's like, come here, come to grandpa. Here, pull up my ear. I got $1 in my ear. He's always yelling. And I don't know why. I have no idea. But he's always, in every other thing, every
Even,
other movie that Ray Liotta's been in,
oh God, yeah.
but not Goodfellas.
Even I just watched him in one of the Adam Sandler movies, Hubie Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Watch it with the kids.
Yeah.
I
Great movie.
I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But Ray Liotta plays Ray Liotta in that movie.
Yeah.
He just, no fucks giving. He just like, yeah, I am just here, and I'm gonna beat up Adam Sandler the entire movie because it's fun.
Because I'm Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
And I
That's
just
it.
yell at people.
Yep. And it was so great.
Yeah.
Now, one I did want to bring up, The Color of Money.
Yeah. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd. Great movie. Oh no, sorry. My apologies. That's that's Trading Places. My bad.
Yes.
Color of Money is Paul Newman. It was a sequel to The Hustler, and it was with Tom Cruise. Very great fucking movie. And again, a lot of movie people shit on because Paul Newman in The Hustler was phenomenal. The Hustler was just wow. And to actually do a sequel almost 20 years later, fucking insane. And to do a sequel but bring in this young Hollywood hotshot, right? And again, Tom Cruise is very one-dimensional. He flashed his smile, and that's all he had in the 80s. Now he's grown.
Oh yeah.
Now he's awesome. I mean, there's nobody else that could be Ethan Hunt other than Tom Cruise. But yeah, The Color of Money, great movie. And when you put a guy like Tom Cruise with a legend like Paul Newman, magic happens. And again, you can see what Scorsese does as a director when he takes a one-dimensional director or one-dimensional character and an actor, and he gives him this like life-changing role where all of a sudden people take you serious. Because right before The Color of Money, he did Cocktail, and Cocktail was a piece of trash, absolute piece of trash. But then he comes back and it was
sorry. As a former bartender, that movie pisses me off because the amount of alcohol, the wasting, flipping bottles. Hey, just buy the fucking cap that you can twist so you can flip your bottle. How did they not do this? It would have just made it look so much better because he's just wasting booze all the time and it's pissing me off.
How did a movie like that get made? And how did a movie like that make a lot of money?
It was the 80s, and cocaine was everywhere.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's true. Like all I got to bring up is any trauma film. Toxicate Avenger. Apparently, all those movies were made by, and they were made to launder drug money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before they got caught, and
Yeah.
it was
Garbage Pail Kids is right in there. Same ballpark.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and all those films that I loved when I was like 6,
Hey, but the 80s gave us Labyrinth, okay? Labyrinth is still a classic.
and so is David Bowie's Cardiac piece.
Oh,
Yep.
hell yeah. Okay, come on. I love that song when he's singing with all the goblins. Baby with
Oh
the
yeah.
ball. Dance, baby, dance. Oh yeah. I love it. And it's like he's talking to the group. It's like, hoodoo, you do, hoodoo, voodoo, you do, baby with the paw. Yeah, it's good, great. Bowie, flawless.
Oh my. Yeah. See, I am a Bowie fan. I really am. And that movie just made me love him so much more.
Absolutely.
And there was one movie on this list that I did not even hear about or even see. 2016 Silence.
Yeah, great movie.
I've never seen it, never heard about it until I saw this list. How that flew under my radar, I don't know anything about it. Can you inform me a little bit on this? Because
No, just watch it. It's
I
so underrated that it's great.
yeah.
It's got Andrew Garfield as a priest. That's all I'm gonna say. How
Oh
do you not love it?
yeah, no, that'll be great.
Yeah. If I'm
So
thinking of the right movie, I believe hang on, now I gotta search. Hang on a second.
all
Hang
right,
on.
all right.
Silence.
No, just he does so many different styles, different like he does modern day, he does timepieces, he does
Yes, I am thinking of the right one. Thank God. Yeah, it's got
yeah.
Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, and Liam Neeson. And this is a phenomenal film that a lot of people, again, might have slept on because it was more
Mhm.
of Scorsese goes back in this film. He kind of goes back to his artsy roots, and it's
Okay.
very picturesque, very, excuse me, very it's just a period piece that it works, but it was also right after he'd won his Oscar, or not right after, a couple years after he'd won his Oscar. He'd already, like, it's Scorsese, he's made his money at this point, and it was kind of like that in between from Jesus Christ, I want to say Wolf of Wall Street. It was the in between Wolf of Wall Street and that horrible Netflix movie that he did.
The Irishman,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. No, I know the name.
Oh yeah, I know.
I want to make you say the name because I want you to hear how bad you sound when you say it.
But I like it, and I can't control why I like it.
That's right. And
Is it
Deep Throat, a lot of people like Deep Throat. So it's
yeah.
fine.
Oh yeah.
It's fine.
But and it just I am amazed at this man's career. I truly am.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not an envious thing. It's like, how can a person be this creative from one movie to a next, and then going from documentary filmmaking to putting out the biggest blockbusters on the planet? And he's even done like he directed a Michael Jackson music video, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
I think it was bad, but
Yes, it was.
let's find out.
It was. Yeah. It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, it just like one of the biggest music videos in the biggest music video time period, the 80s. Theatrical, like one of the biggest names in Hollywood. I'm going to direct a music video for Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Who has the fucking balls to do that? Really?
Martin Scorsese.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And who took the longest to win an Oscar before he? Now we have to talk about Departed, right? Can we talk about Departed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just went through the gauntlet of and there's so many more movies we could have discussed, but we went through the gauntlet of
Oh God, yeah.
some great films and some not so great films and some sleeper films. We touched on the great of the great, You got your Raging Bulls, you got your casinos, you
Mhm.
got your Cape Fears, you got your Taxi Driver, you got Mean Streets, you got all those. Again, history. If you're going to show a kid who wants to be a director, wants to be an editor, how to make a movie, you show them a Scorsese film. That's what you do. If you want to show them how to make a lot of money but make a bad movie, you show them a Scorsese film. You show them The Irishman. If you
Mhm.
want to show them, I have to do it. I have to do it. If you want to show them uh, what 40 years of going against the film world gets you before they finally just give up and say, okay, yeah, okay, he's got a movie coming out. Let's just give it to him. Because now it's just people fucking hate us. So we have to. We have to.
Mhm.
And they give it to him for Departed, which was a very, 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 very stolen script, in my opinion. Very stolen. Reminded me a lot of District 13 or D13,
Mhm.
if you will, the French action film, minus all the action, but very similar storyline. Cop kind of working his way in, going against the grain, literally playing the part for years, off the books, off the radar, if you will. And then he pulls out great performances. Mark Wahlberg is a decent actor, but he pulls out a great performance from Mark Wahlberg in a bad movie, in a movie that was just not Scorsese at his best. This was a very lazy Scorsese, and it's too bad because he had a dynamite cast. He had Jack Nicholson, he had DiCaprio, and he had Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
It could have been something special, but the fact of the matter remains, whoever wrote it, and I'm not sure on who wrote it, but whoever wrote it stole the idea from a French action film. Mind you, again, French action film, Departed. One's an action movie, one's a drama. People would look at it and say it's not the same movie. But if you look at the subtle undertones and hints, the screenwriter actually goes out of his way to even steal some lines of dialogue from District 13. So my whole beef with Departed is that it's not Scorsese at his best. I rank it right up there with The Irishman. It's overacted, underdirected, and it's not. Other than Mark Wahlberg's performance, which I did find really, really great, it's not. Even Jack Nicholson seemed like he didn't care.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson seemed like he didn't give a fuck to be there. And DiCaprio tried to save it. And I get it. It's critically acclaimed. It made a lot of money. And there are a lot of people out there that like it. That's great. That's your opinion. But this is mine. And I'm the guest on the fucking show. And he picked me for a reason, not anybody else. Because I'm honest and I'm going to say it. And if I'm wrong, great. Prove me I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. But when I'm right, I'm right. And even when I'm wrong, I'm still kind of right sometimes. So it still makes me right. See what I'm saying? That's a line that's Terrence Howard from Get Rich or Die Trying, 50 Cent. Even when I'm wrong, I'm right, but I'm still wrong and I may still be right. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it does.
Oh,
but
yeah, man.
This was not Scorsese at his best.
I know. And with The Departed, I have watched it. I know I watch it. Can I tell you one scene from it? No.
Because you don't give a fuck. You're not invested in these misfit characters. This is the one movie where there is these misfit characters, and you don't care. It's kind of like Donnie Brasco. I've watched that movie 100 times, but could I tell you anything other than Al Pacino's glasses? No, no, and that's because it's not a good movie. Blow.
Yeah.
My wife loves Blow. I've watched it with her 1,000 times. Could I quote a line from it? No. But Play From Hell, I'll quote you Johnny Depp's dialogue back to back.
Oh yeah.
But play me Blow and
it's a weak film. It really is.
It is. There's some films that are so critically acclaimed that I don't understand why. And then there are films that you gravitate towards it. And maybe it's just who I am. But I was always, even the movies that I loved Tarantino when it wasn't popular to love him.
Yeah.
I loved Tarantino when he made Reservoir Dogs and people were like, this guy's, it's great, but what's he going to follow this up with? Well, then he followed up with fucking Pulp Fiction, Shut Your Fucking Mouth. And then he followed it up again with Jackie Brown, which it's like The Irishman. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. But then he comes back and he gives you Kill Bill 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But then he also made A Hateful Eight.
Yep.
So we have to understand that there are good and bad. Exactly. There are layers. But Departed is not one of those great ones. Silence, on the other hand, I highly recommend. If you haven't seen it, Justin, please do. And I
will
hope that
definitely watch it.
Scorsese looks at The Irishman a year or two from now and says, I don't want to go out on this. I don't want to go. I don't want this to be the last film that I do. I want one more.
He has one coming out in 2022 called Killers of the Flower Moon.
I'm in.
Yeah.
What's the running time? Does it tell you the running time?
No, it tells me nothing. There's no information about it.
Is it a Netflix film?
That I do not know. All I got, all the information. No actors, no nothing.
Okay.
Post-production. That's it.
So it's been shot.
Yeah, there's no information on this film out there right now. As a Scorsese film, who you normally know who the actors are, you know who the cast is.
Oh, Hollywood's always a buzzing with everything, right?
Yeah. Nothing.
Oh fuck! I hope it's not another. I hope Netflix has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, because they don't want to rein Scorsese in. That's the thing. He needs to be reined in. He needs someone to work with. He's, as you said, that editor was the secret, his secret sauce. And we do got to wrap this up because you gave me 1 full hour of your time, and I always appreciate it, George. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And before we leave, self-promotion time. Come on, buddy. Let me have it.
All right. So you can find me at on Twitter at _Straight Talk, on Instagram and Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, on YouTube at Straight Talk Wrestling. Is a podcast I do with my daughter, and I also have a side podcast called MLW Rewind, which is on Straight Talk. I do that with my podcast life partner, that's Uncle Bobby B. And yeah, we just hit 400 subscribers, so thank you to everyone that subscribed. But we're always looking for more, so check out the content. Let us know what you like and what you didn't like. And in terms of merch, I've got a couple shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees, but my daughter and I have a whole bunch of merch on Spreadshirt. It's great. We've got hats, we've got thermoses, we've got cell phone cases, we've got all kinds of stuff. The prices are kind of set by them. I shit you not. I only make like $5 an item, but it's easier for us because I don't want to have boxes and boxes of fucking merchandise in my basement that I'm not going to sell. So if you like us and you want to support the show, check out Spreadshirt. It's done in US, Canadian, and UK prices. It gives you all the exchange rate. It does the shipping. It does everything for us. So anything you purchase from us goes right back into the show. And what can I say, Gil and me, this is like the third one we've done. So yeah, the fourth one, I think we're either going to, we have to do Coppola or we have to go down the rabbit hole that is Mel Gibson. But either one of them will be dynamite. I would even challenge you to this if you're up for it. A lot of people don't know the obscure filmography of Tim Roth. I do. And I would love to go down the rabbit hole that is Tim Roth. Or
we have to do Tim Roth.
Or as some people know him, Theodore the Thumper. And if you don't know what that is, Google that shit.
Oh my God. Oh man. So guys, stay tuned for the next one. We have more ideas coming out. I would love to pump these out with George, but we both are very, very busy dudes. So tune in to the next one, boys and girls. Yep.